This is a compilation of all the videos I've made on review writing. It is quite a long one. If you can sit down and take notes, that would be best. If you can't, you can watch it while you are working out, while you are having your meals, or while you are waiting for someone, and take screenshots instead of notes. There are sections that are not about review writing. I've also included templates for report writing, article writing, and essay writing. I've also included videos on tenses, punctuation, and sentence variety. I hope you find them useful. Enjoy. If you're writing a review for the first time or the first few times, or if you are struggling to write a review, this is the video for you. Welcome to English Step by Step. I am Miss Wee. Let's start by understanding what a review is. So the purpose of a review is to give an opinion on something, whether it is a book, a restaurant, a shopping mall, and it's to help others make a decision whether to go to the mall, whether to read the book, whether to buy the product. Your audience is usually fellow students because in the ESL exam, the review will be published in a school magazine or a school website. So the register is semi-formal. An example question might be to write a review of a restaurant that you went to recently to help others decide whether they want to eat there as well. Here we have a sample question from the May-June 2024 paper. You recently bought a copy of a new magazine which is aimed at teenagers. You decide to review the magazine and you will post the review on your school website. Here are some comments about the magazine from your friends. It's quite expensive. I'd prefer longer articles. There are some interesting topics. I love the photos. Now write a review of the new magazine. The comments above may give you some ideas, and you should also use some ideas of your own. Write about 120 to 160 words. Now, because this is a video for beginners, we're going to write closer to 120 words. You will receive up to 6 marks for the content of your review. We're going to do this in a minute, and up to 9 marks for the language used. I'm going to talk about this at the end of the video, so make sure you watch the whole video. So here I've highlighted the keywords. You have to write a review of a new magazine. Here we have the negative points. It's quite expensive. I prefer longer articles. Here we have the positive points, interesting topics, and nice photos. And just a reminder, there is a review, not report or article. A reminder to use some of your own ideas. So I've indicated which ones are negative comments and which ones are positive feedback. Now, I'm not going to use all 4 points because this is a video for beginners. In the advanced video, I will use all 4, but in this video, I'm going to pick just 1 negative and 1 positive. So these are the 2 I'm going to pick. For the negative side, I'm going to say that it's quite expensive. And for the positive side, I'm going to talk about the photos. And then I'm going to add my own points because it says here to use some ideas of your own. So my own point, I'm going to say that there are a lot of advertisements, which is not a good thing. And on the positive side, I'm going to say that the articles are about teenage problems. I'm going to develop my points because you get marks for development. So there are a lot of advertisements, which means that it may look thick, but there are actually not many articles to read. And on the positive side, the articles are about teenage problems such as conflict between friends and how to revise effectively for exams, which are very useful for teenagers. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the wording into my own words, the wordings of the comments which I've chosen to use. I'm not just going to lift and copy, I'm going to paraphrase them, which is another way of saying using my own words. So instead of saying it's quite expensive, I might say that it is costly. And instead of saying I love the photos, I might say that the photos are attractive. And of course, I also need to develop these points. So it is costly. It costs 20 ringgit, which is a lot of money for teenagers. The photos are attractive because the colors are very bright and colorful. Looking at this now, I don't think I like the repetition, so I might change this when I'm writing the review. So be very flexible. You can change some of the wordings when you're writing the review. Here we have a template for the review. This template is from the video that I made, providing students 4 types of templates for report, review, article, and essay. If you would like to get the templates from that video, you can click on the link here. Let me explain this template. So here you would put in the thing that you are reviewing. So you have a review of and the name of the magazine. Give the name of the magazine here and whatever details that you can provide. So it says here, try to give as many details as possible and delete the ones that are not relevant. And then continue with last weekend. I visited, read, watched this. Because it's a magazine, I'm going to use the word read and was impressed. So that's all for my introduction. Moving on to my first body paragraph, which will provide the positive points. I have firstly, point and development. Secondly, point and development. Now, because this video is for beginners, I'm not going to write the third point. As it says here, it is not necessary to have 3 points. You can stop at 2, which is what we're going to do here. And then moving on to the next paragraph where we're going to provide the negative points. However, and then point and development, furthermore, point and development. And again, we're going to stop at 2. This is the concluding paragraph. Despite the minor drawbacks, the name of the magazine is a great for teenagers. It's provide a positive point here combined with another positive point. That's why I've said summarize the positive points. Makes it ideal. I highly recommend it. You can change some of the wording a little bit here and there if you would like to. So this is what it looks like after I fill in all the blanks.
A review of Teenage Magazine. The newly launched Teenage Magazine has quickly become very popular. Last weekend, I read the latest issue and was impressed. Firstly, the magazine features attractive photos. They are very eye-catching as they are bright and colorful. Secondly, the articles are highly relevant to teenagers, covering topics such as navigating friendships and effective exam revision. However, the magazine is rather costly at 20 ringgit, which is a significant cost for teenagers. Furthermore, it contains a large number of advertisements. While the magazine appears thick, many pages are dedicated to advertisements, leaving relatively few articles. Despite these minor drawbacks, Teenage Magazine is a great resource for teens. Its high-resolution photos combined with the interesting articles makes it an ideal read. I highly recommend it.
This is what it should look like in the exam. Only underline the heading and you have 4 paragraphs. I'm going to break things down very quickly here to explain how to get language marks, but I'm not going to go into too much detail. You can look for the advanced video if you would like to know about the mark scheme and examiner comments and how to get a high score. So here you can see that I've used present tense. They're all underlined. Are, is, contains, appears. If you would like to watch a video on a summary of all the present tenses, please click on the link above. I have used advanced sentence structures. They are in bold. I have a video on the different types of sentence structures. You can click on the link above. And I have also used some less common vocabulary. They are in blue. I have another video on vocabulary, but I don't think I can include that many links in one video, so you might have to go and look for it on your own. So in order to have high language marks, you must make sure that you include these things and that you're using the right tense. I hope that you have found this video helpful. If so, please remember to like, share, and subscribe for more videos like this. Please make sure that you hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future lessons. Welcome to English Step by Step. This is Miss V. Today we want to do review writing. This is for the Cambridge English Second Language 0510 or 0511. So a review should give opinions about something. It should be therefore subjective because you're going to provide either positive and or negative opinions. You have to be persuasive, so you have to tell people whether to go to a certain place, to use a certain product, to see a certain film, to read a certain book, etc. You have to be personal. You're going to give your personal experience, and informal. In the introduction, you should include information about what is being reviewed. So we're going to follow these steps. First, read the question as usual and highlight the keywords. And then plan your answer, write the review, and check your answer. This is taken from the Cambridge support website. This is a sample question. So I'm going to read this to you first before I read their comments. So this is the question. You recently visited a new shopping center in your town. I've highlighted the keywords, which you should do on your own. You have decided to write a review of the center for your school magazine. So you're writing a magazine article. Here are some comments about the new shopping center from other young people. So your audience are young people. So you're going to be rather informal. Okay, so we have some good points about the mall or the shopping center. First, it's easy to get to. And second, it's a good place to meet friends. So you can use these points, but you should add on at least one of your own point, which I'm going to show you later. On the negative side, everything seems quite expensive and we couldn't find a good sports shop. Again, you can use these, but please add on your own point later. Now, write a review of the new shopping center for your school magazine, giving your views. The comments above may give you some ideas and you should also use some ideas of your own. Write about 120 to 160 words. You will see here, it says the number of words is for guidance. So you can write a little bit over if you can't fit everything in, but you may have a problem with time management. So you have to decide for yourself. You will receive up to 6 marks for the content of your review and up to 9 marks for the language used. I'm going to read the other comments now. Once you have read through the task and all the instructions here, you should also read the comments. Before you start writing, plan. So that's our next step. Plan how many paragraphs you will need and what ideas you want to include in each paragraph. Now, the purpose of this review is to write about a new shopping center. The reader should be informed about what you think the positive and negative points are, and whether you would recommend the shopping center. So we're going to do, after introduction, we're going to do one paragraph for positive, one paragraph for negative, and then one paragraph for recommendation. Now, other students from your school are the audience for this review. Okay, that's why you have to be informal. You can use some of the ideas from the comments in your review, but you should expand on them. So whatever you use, you should expand on them. Don't just lift them. So maybe paraphrase first and then add on more information. And then include other ideas of your own. Please do this. The response to this question needs to be in the form of a review for a school magazine. So the register should be informal to semi-formal. but should avoid language that is too idiomatic or colloquial. So don't make it conversational. This is an example candidate response and the examiner comments over here. So let's read this response. The title, A New Shopping Center. A shopping center is a place where people visit to buy clothes as well as furniture. So here the candidate begins their review with an introduction, highlighting the role that supermarkets play for local residents in general. It is not only used to purchase things, others can go there to meet friends as well as to get fresh air. The candidate attempts some more complex structures, sentence structures, with a varied level of success. So you're going to have to do this, write some sentence structures that are more complex. The new shopping center in our town that was recently opened overcame many problems that we had at the beginning. Here, the candidate shows a good sense of purpose in this paragraph. The candidate also tries to engage the reader by introducing the idea of overcoming problems, which are later listed in the same paragraph. However, the candidate merely lifts the ideas from the prompts, and there is little expansion here. We do not need to travel to other towns to purchase things as a result. This saves time and money. Moreover, it is a good place to meet friends, as we will have a variety of shops that we can buy food to eat as well as to do window shopping. So this student hasn't added his or her own ideas. He or she has only used the ideas from the prompts. So there's little expansion. In number 4, there are some attempts at less common vocabulary. So for example, window shopping. So you will need to put in a few more advanced vocabulary to get a higher grade. However, so the candidate introduces the negative points in this paragraph by using however. The ideas are again mostly lifted from the prompts with little development. So please make sure that you have more ideas than what's given, and you also develop the ideas given. However, everything that is sold there seems quite expensive. Therefore, people don't usually go there as the spending takes them out of budget. Moreover, many shops that we also need, they are not yet there. Okay, so there are some awkward sentences. As a result, people are forced to change their plans of purchasing. The candidate uses a range of linking words to link the ideas within paragraphs. So things like as well as therefore, but also introduce a new idea at the start of the paragraphs. However, some of these linking words are rather formal for this style. However, so for example, moreover is quite formal, and this may also have a negative effect on the reader. In a nutshell, the shopping center really helped us, although there are some loopholes. Not sure why this word is here, which we believe spelling error, they will be fixed as time goes on. Okay, there'll be some comments by the examiner about the grammatical errors later. Now, the review is clearly structured and ends with a concise conclusion. However, it is not very persuasive and lacks a clear recommendation from the candidate. Yeah, so it doesn't say whether we should go or not go to this shopping center. Now, so the mark for content is 4 out of 6 because this student hasn't included his or her own points. A mark for language is 6 out of 9. There are some awkward sentences, grammatical errors, spelling errors, punctuation errors, so on. But let's look at the examiner's comments on how the candidate could have improved their answer. So it says here that, I'm not going to read everything because it's quite long. So it says here that the student should have added more factual information. So for example, the location or when it was opened, and then the student or the candidate does not introduce any ideas of their own and relies heavily on the ideas from the prompts with little expansion. Okay, so that's a problem. The candidate could have included a personal experience that happened while they were visiting the center. Okay, then here think the examiner recommended the use of rhetorical questions and more complex vocabulary and also sentence structures that are more complex. Okay, so if you want to read the other comments, you can pause and read it. So we have read the question and keywords. Now we're going to go to step 2, which is to plan your answer. So I've put the positive points on one side, the negative points on the other side, and then I also have a column for development, just to make sure that you do develop. So these are the points from the prompt. It is easy to get to. So my development is on both the bus and LRT route. It's a good place to meet friends. So my development is there are many cafes. I've added my own point. There is a cinema on the top floor and development showing a variety of films. Now the negative points, again, these two are from the prompt. Everything seems expensive. Then my development, but the eateries are reasonable. Now I am going to recommend this shopping center later on. So I want to soften the negative points. And that's why I've added this. We couldn't find a good sports shop, and my development is there was only one small one. I've added another negative point of my own. It is difficult to get a parking space. And then I try to soften it again because I do want to recommend this shopping center to my peers later. So I say, but most of us don't have cars anyway, so it's not a big problem for us. Okay, so I've planned my answer and now I'm going to write the review. So I'm going to have 4 paragraphs. One is the introduction. So I'm going to describe what is being reviewed. And then the next paragraph, I'm going to give all the positive points plus the development plus my own point. The same for negative points. And the last paragraph would be my recommendation. So this is my review. Title, a review of the new Empire Shopping Center. So I've just given it a name. You can call it anything. Empire Shopping Center, the new mall in our town, has quickly become a popular spot for locals. Last weekend, I visited this mall and was impressed. Firstly, it is very convenient. So here we have the positive points. Being accessible via multiple bus and LRT lines. More importantly, the mall offers an excellent venue to meet friends and numerous trendy cafes, providing a comfortable setting. So you can see my wording is slightly different from the table for my planning. As if all that isn't enough, there is even a multiplex cinema on the top floor featuring a variety of films. However, so this is the negative points. Some shoppers find the goods here more expensive than in others, although I personally found the eateries very reasonable. The downside, however, is that there is only one small sports shop, which left me disappointed. So this is a personal experience, as I couldn't find the shoes I wanted. Parking is another challenge, but how many of us have a car anyway? So I'm using a rhetorical question here. Despite these minor drawbacks, Empire Shopping Center is a great destination for socializing. So I'm recommending it. Its lively atmosphere combined with the cinema and cafe, should be cafes actually, makes it an ideal place for a day out with friends. So I'm being persuasive. Okay, so I'm going to break things down for you. I've actually added some more things in this introductory paragraph. And for some reason, I have decided to change the name of the shopping center. Okay, so we have I'm going to talk to you about the purple points first. So that's for the structure of the review. So I have the title, a review of the new Empire Shopping Center. I've underlined it. And then I have the introduction. So here you have to introduce what is being reviewed. So I'm going to read this to you again because it has been changed slightly. Edmonton Shopping Center, the new mall in Mount Carroll. I've added the location now. I think the examiner also mentioned that it would be good to mention when it was opened. I haven't, but you can do so. Has quickly become a popular spot for locals. Last weekend, I visited this mall and was impressed. So I put the positive points here and then the negative points in the next paragraph. And my final paragraph is the recommendation. But there are a few other things that I want you to pay attention to, which is the development of points. So I have not just stopped at saying that it's a good place to meet friends. I've developed that point by saying that there are numerous trendy cafes providing a comfortable setting. So this is what it means by development. I've also used linking words like however, firstly, these are linking words. Okay, and then I've used different sentence structures. You can see here, Edmonton Shopping Center, the new mall in Mont Cara has quickly become a popular spot for locals. This is an embedded sentence. As if all that isn't enough, there is even a multiplex cinema on the top floor featuring a variety of films. So that's a complex sentence. And then I have compound sentences. And I'm sure I also have compound complex sentences. Okay, then I think the examiner also wants to see a variety of punctuation. So I've used here exclamation mark, question mark, I've got full stop, I've got commas. If you can use things like colon, semicolon, things like that, it will be good too. Okay, I've also added a rhetorical question here and less common vocabulary. Okay, if you can use some, I've underlined mine. If you can use as many as you can, but make sure that you know the meaning and you know how to use it. Otherwise, it might confuse the examiner. Okay, and then in this paragraph, I made sure that I was persuasive and that I did give a recommendation. Okay, and then I used an informal tone. Today, I'm going to make it easy for you by giving you some free templates that will help you ace your exams with confidence. Now, these templates are designed to make your writing clear, structured, and easy to follow, which is exactly what examiners are looking for. So whether you're preparing for the ESL paper or doing an assignment, these templates will make it simple, fast, and most importantly, stress-free. So do watch this video till the end because I'm going to walk you through each template and show you exactly how to use them to nail your exam. Now don't forget to like and subscribe and let's get started. So welcome back to my channel, English Step by Step. I am Miss Wee and we are going to start with a report. So this is the template for a report. Up here for the heading, we have report, colon, and look at what the topic is from the prompt and just insert it here. Then we have subheadings, introduction, positive points, negative points, and suggestions. Please underline them. And we will start this way. This report evaluates, so whatever it is you are evaluating, and then give some details, attended by, so the who, the when, and the where, highlighting both positive and negative aspects and suggestions for improvement. So try to fill in as many of the blanks as possible. If they are not relevant, then just ignore them. Now, positive points, we have 3 here. Firstly, put in your point and development. Secondly, point and development. Finally, point and development. Do note that it's not necessary to have 3. You can stop at 2 if you want. Same thing for negative points. So we start with however, point and development, furthermore, point and development, besides, point and development. Again, you can stop at 2 if you want. Then we have suggestions to improve future, whatever it is. There should be point and development, moreover, point and development, in addition, point and development. Again, you can stop at 2. Now let's try and apply it to an exam question. I have made a video on how to write a report in detail. If you would like to watch that video now, you can click on this link up here. I'm also going to put a link in the description box below. So if you want to watch it later, you can click on that link. Now, this question is about a one-day sports festival. So here I have report, sports festival. Introduction, this report evaluates the one-day sports festival attended by our class 11A on August 12, 2024 at the National Stadium, highlighting both positive aspects and areas for improvement. So it's very simple, just fill in the blanks. So for positive points, I'm going to take 2 from the prompt. Here we have, it was a chance to meet students from other schools and I learned a lot about fitness. So I'm going to start with this one. Firstly, the event provided valuable insights into how fitness can enhance academic performance. This is my development. This is my own point. Secondly, it motivated some of us to take up badminton regularly. And this is this point here. Finally, it allowed us to connect with students from other schools. My development is that the students are from national and international schools. Moving on to negative points, you will see from the prompt that there weren't many new sports to try, and we spent too much time listening to instructions. So, however, the variety of sports was limited, and my development is football, badminton, basketball, and volleyball, which left many students wanting more diversity. Furthermore, the instructors' speeches were lengthy and uninspiring. Then my own point, besides, the one-day duration was insufficient as it did not allow us to fully explore the available activities. Lastly, we have suggestions. To improve future festivals, there should be a broader range of sports, such as rock climbing, archery, and fencing. Moreover, talks by instructors should be made shorter and more engaging. In addition, an extended duration would also greatly enhance the overall experience. So I have 3 suggestions here. Now I have a couple of exam questions here for you to try to put into the template. If you have any problems, leave a comment in the comment section below and I will try to help you out. Now we're going to move on to review writing. So this is the template for review writing. In the heading, we have a review of, and then look at what you're reviewing from the prompt. Underline this heading. So give the name of what you're reviewing and as many of these details as possible. So where, when, who, etc. has become very popular. Last weekend, I visited, I read, I watched this, whatever it was, and was impressed. So let's start with the positive points. Firstly, we have point and development. Secondly, same, and finally. So again, you can stop at 2 if you want. And now moving on to the negative points. However, point and development, furthermore, same, and besides. And this is the conclusion. Despite the minor drawbacks, there should be an S here, sorry about that. Whatever it is a grade 4, and it's, so here we want to summarize the positive points. So put a positive point here and another one here. Makes it ideal. I highly recommend it. Again, I have made a video on review writing in detail. If you would like to watch that video now, you can click on this link here, or you can click on the link in the description box. So here we are reviewing a new shopping center. I've given the new shopping center a name. So in the heading, we have a review of the new Empire Shopping Center. And then I've just filled in the blanks. Empire Shopping Center, the new mall that opened in Kuala Lumpur. So I have the location and the time it was opened. has quickly become very popular. Last weekend, I visited this mall and was impressed. So firstly, secondly, and thirdly, I've put in the point and development, point and development, point and development. Two of the points are from the prompt, and one of them is my own point. And the same for the negative points. We have, however, furthermore, besides. Here, my developments are actually counter arguments. So, for example, some shoppers find the goods here more expensive than in others, although I personally found the eateries very reasonable. So that's a counter argument. Do watch the video on review writing if you don't understand what I'm saying. And if you have difficulty with counter argument, you can just also provide a simple development. And then we have the conclusion. Despite these minor drawbacks, Empire Shopping Center is a great destination for socializing. Its lively atmosphere combined with a cinema and cafe makes it ideal. So it's a summary of the positive points and a general statement as well. I highly recommend it. Again, I've given you 2 exam questions to try. See if you can fill in the blanks in the template. If not, just leave a comment in the comment section below and I will try to help you with it. Now we have article writing. And here is the template for article writing. So we have a title. So you get the title from the prompt and underline the title. It would be nice to start with a rhetorical question, and then there are many reasons why, and then look at what the topic is about. So we'll start with one side of the argument. On the one hand, can be advantages. So firstly, secondly, thirdly, give the points and development. And then on the other side of the argument, on the other hand, whatever it is can cause problems. So to begin with, furthermore, some people say that, besides, so here we want point and counter argument. Again, if you don't understand what counter argument is, please go watch the video on article writing. Or you can also just give point and development. All in all, this is your conclusion. So pick one side and explain why you are on this side and make sure that you are persuasive. So here we have an example exam question on article writing. If you would like to watch that video now, you can click on this link here or click on the link in the description box below. So this particular question is about whether towns and cities should have more parks and green spaces. So I started with the heading, which is parks and green spaces. And in my introduction, I have written a rhetorical question. Can you imagine not seeing a tree for days on end? There are many reasons why towns and cities should have more parks and green spaces. So I'm just filling in the blanks. So on the one hand, parks are so important to us. So you can see that I have adjusted the template a little bit. So you have to be flexible if the question does not fit nicely into your template. So I have firstly, secondly, thirdly, points and development. Again, 2 are from the prompt and 1 is my own. And the same for the other side of the argument. On the other hand, having too many parts can also cause problems. All in all, green spaces are essential for cities. We need more parks and gardens to improve quality of life. So I've chosen one side and I have explained why. Here again, I've given you 2 exam questions to try out. See if you can fit these information into the template. Lastly, we have essay, which is new in the syllabus. And here we have the template for it. So no heading. Introduction, we start with nowadays and make a general statement about the issue. There are advantages and disadvantages to, and get this part from the prompt. So again, we start with one side of the argument. On the one hand, whatever it is can be advantages. And then we have firstly, secondly, finally, or thirdly, and we have points and development. On the other hand, whatever it is can also cause problems. To begin with, furthermore, besides, and we have our points and developments. So in conclusion, I believe that, so pick one side and explain why you are on this side. And you can end with the right rules, with the right management, with the right whatever, potential issues can be managed effectively. So here is an example. Now this is an example that I made up. If you would like to watch the video now, you can click on the link up here or click on the link in the description box below. So this essay is about whether students should be allowed to bring mobile phones to school. So I've started with nowadays, most schools do not allow mobile phones on campus. There are advantages and disadvantages to allowing students to bring their phones to school. On the one hand, having a phone can be advantageous, and then I have firstly, secondly, finally with the points and development. On the other hand, phones can also cause problems. To begin with, moreover, furthermore, and I have all my points and development in here. In conclusion, I believe that students should be allowed to bring mobile phones to school. Technology plays a major role in our future and its use should be encouraged. With the right rules, potential issues can be managed effectively. So I picked a side and explained why in a persuasive manner. Here I've given you 2 questions to try. So again, if you have problems, do let me know. I hope you found this video helpful. Don't forget to share it with your friends, hit the like button and subscribe for more tips. Have you mastered the 4 formats yet? If not, let's revise them together. Welcome to English Step by Step. I am Miss Wee. I have made a video to give you the templates of the 4 formats. If you haven't watched that video, you can click up here to get to it. I will also include the link in the description box below so that you can watch the video after this one if you prefer. Today I'm going to talk about the differences between the 4 formats. I'm going to give you a bird's eye view. So starting with purpose, the purpose of a report is to present findings and suggest improvements. The purpose of a review is to give an opinion on something in order to help others make a decision. The purpose of an article is to inform a general audience on a particular topic. And the purpose of an essay is to argue a point of view in an academic way. Now let's look at the audience. The audience for a report for this particular exam is usually a school principal, a teacher, or an organization. And the audience for a review for the 0510 or 0511 paper is usually your peers, such as students or the general public. And for an article, the audience is usually your peers again, or your school community. And the audience for an essay is usually a teacher. The register means how formal it is. A report is very formal and impersonal. Reviews and articles are semi-formal to informal, and an essay is formal and academic. So here I've included some example questions. Write a report to your principal about the success of an event and suggest improvements for future events. So this is for a report. Now for a review, write a review of a school trip or a film you recently watched. Article, write an article for a school newsletter about whether students should learn a second language. An essay, write an essay on whether social media is beneficial or harmful to teenagers. So here are some differences between the four formats. Now let's look at the structure. For paragraph 1, you would introduce the topic for all of them. So in a report, you would provide a summary of the event and also the purpose of the report. In a review, you would summarize the thing being reviewed. In an article and essay, you would introduce the topic, which will be given in the prompt. Now you will see that in paragraph 2, they are all the same. You will present the positive points or the points in favor of the topic. Paragraph 3 is also similar, negative points or points against the topic. In paragraph 4, they are slightly different. In a report, you would give suggestions. In a review, you would give recommendations. In articles and essays, you would pick one side of the argument and persuade the reader to agree with you. Now, I have to mention that a report can be written differently, and so can an essay. However, the reason I've done it this way is so that it's easy for you to remember. So for example, paragraph 2 is always about the positive points and paragraph 3 is always about the negative points. So the similarities, as I've said before, paragraphs 2 and 3 are the same for all the four formats if you follow my templates. The main difference is a report has subheadings and suggestions at the end. A review has recommendations at the end. If you use my templates, you will see that my template for article is different from the others because there is a rhetorical question and counter arguments. And for an essay, there is no heading. You will need a heading for all three of these formats, report, review, and article, but not for an essay. And here's a bird's eye view of the four formats. Again, if you haven't watched that video on how to use these templates, you can click on the link or in the description box below. So for a report, you can see that there's heading and subheadings. For a review, you can see that there is a recommendation. For an article, you can see that I've included rhetorical question and counter arguments. And for an essay, you can see that there's no heading. I hope that you found this short video useful. If you have, please share with your friends, like and subscribe. This is an extension of the last video on tenses to use for emails, but this will be for the report, review, article, and essay. Welcome back to English Step by Step. I am Miss Wee, and let's start with the report. I have already done a video on this question. Do go and look for it. But in this video, I will not go into the details. I only want to show you how to decide on what tense to use. If you look at this particular question, it says, in your report, say what was enjoyable about the sports festival. So a report is usually on something that has already happened, and then suggest how it could be improved. So this would be in the future. Could is a modal verb, and we should also use modal verbs in this paragraph when we are suggesting improvements. So here is an example that I already showed you in my video on report writing. So you can see that I've used past tense. And this paragraph would be in past tense because this event is already finished. And the same for negative points. Again, you can see that I have used past tense. However, for the suggestions, I would be using modal verbs. Rock climbing, archery, and fencing should be offered. An extended duration would also greatly enhance the overall experience. So for suggestions, you can use modal verbs such as should, would, sorry, there should be a comma here, can, could, etc. So that's for the report. Usually we would use past tense for the positive and negative points and modal verbs for the suggestions. And next we have review. And here we have a question. You recently visited a new shopping center in your town. You have decided to write a review of the center for your school magazine. Although your visit was in the past, the shopping center is still there, and therefore your review would be in present tense. As you can see, the comments are mainly in present tense. This one is in past tense. You can also use past tense if you had a particular experience on that day itself. So here is an example of a review. If you want to watch the video on review writing, please click on the link up here. So here you can see that I've used present tense. And the next paragraph is also present tense. And in the next one, the negative points, they're also present tense. And in the conclusion, is also present tense. So reviews are usually all in present tense. Moving on to the article. So if you're interested in article writing, please click on the link above. This is the question that I did in that particular video. In class, you recently had a discussion about whether towns and cities should have more parks and green spaces. So that's a modal verb. You have decided to write an article for your school magazine. Here are some comments from students in your class. So you can see that comments are mainly in present tense because we are discussing an issue that exists now. So articles are usually in present tense. And here is an example of the article. So you can see that I've used present tense again, and also present tense in the concluding paragraph. Finally, we have the essay. This is a new format in the new syllabus. So I've made this question up. In class, you have discussed whether students should be allowed to bring mobile phones to school. So we have a modal verb. And if you look at the comments, you can see that they are in present tense. It's because we are discussing an issue that exists now. So here's the essay. If you're interested in the video, do click on the link above. So you can see that I've used present tense in the introduction, present tense when presenting the advantages, and present tense when discussing disadvantages, and present tense in the concluding paragraph as well. So the same thing as in review in the essay, I would also use present tense throughout. So here is a summary of what I've said so far. In the report, we would use past tense for the first part when we're discussing the good and bad points. But when we're making suggestions in the second part, I would use modal verbs. In the review, article, and essay, you would use present tense unless you are talking specifically about something that happened in the past. In this video, I will be giving you 3 templates followed by examples for review writing, and then I will be giving you 3 more templates without examples, and you can try them out on your own. Welcome to English Step by Step. I make videos for first and second language English, and my name is Miss Sui. First, let's talk about a review. A review should give opinions about the thing that you are reviewing. It could be a shopping mall, a cinema, a course, a book, or a film. So you have to be subjective, as in you have to give positive and negative opinions. You have to be persuasive, as in you have to recommend or not recommend the thing that you're reviewing. And And of course, you should include information about what is being reviewed. Here are the steps for writing a review. So the first step is to read the question and highlight the keywords so you don't go out of point. And then plan your answer. I go into a lot of detail in that particular video that I just mentioned. Then write your review and finally check your answer. This is the structure that I recommend. In the introduction, give information about what is being reviewed. In the next paragraph, give all the positive points. The third paragraph, provide the negative points. And finally, say whether you recommend or don't recommend whatever is being reviewed. Today, we will be attempting this question, which is on review writing. So a new cinema has recently opened in your town. You have decided to write a review of the cinema for your school magazine. Here are 2 comments from other people who have been to the cinema. There's a great range of films to see. So that's a positive point. The staff aren't very friendly. That's a negative point. This is an older paper, so there are only 2 comments, 1 positive and 1 negative. In the new papers, you will see 4 comments, 2 positive and 2 negative. If you want to use them all, you can, but make sure you include some ideas of your own. It says here 150 to 200 words long because this is from the older paper. The newer paper states that you have to write between 120 to 160, so it's a little shorter. So let's look at the first template. So first we have the heading, a review of, and then write down whatever you are reviewing. You'll be able to get that from the prompt, obviously. And I think it will be a good practice to underline the topic or the heading. So we're starting here with a rhetorical question. Have you ever experienced, read, watched, tried? So it depends on what you are reviewing. Something that truly stood out. Recently, I had the chance to watch Revisit. Again, it depends on what you're reviewing. And I was eager to share my thoughts. So here we're going to do the positive points. One of the best things about the mall, the book, whatever, is you have point and development. In addition, and then your second point and development. If you don't understand what I mean by point and development, please watch the video that I showed you earlier on. You can include a third point if you want. And if you do, please use a transition or linking words such as furthermore, besides, and so on. Now, moving on to negative points. That being said, there were some drawbacks. For instance, point and development. Another issue was point and development. And here we have your final verdict. Overall, the book, the course, whatever you're reviewing, is an exciting, insightful, enjoyable experience. So here is a chance for you to put in some advanced vocabulary to gain more marks. Despite some minor flaws, and then mention the positive features, makes it worth watching, reading, visiting, etc. I would recommend it to whoever is interested in, to young people, or to the general public. So here I have written an answer to that particular question using this template that I just showed you.
A review of the new cinema. Have you ever visited a place that left you with mixed feelings? Recently, I had the chance to visit the new TGV cinema in Mega Mall, and I was eager to share my thoughts. One of the best things about this cinema is the wide selection of films. Whether you enjoy thrilling action movies or heartfelt dramas, there is something for everyone. In addition, the screen quality is excellent, with crystal clear visuals and impressive surround sound that enhances the overall experience. That being said, there were some drawbacks. For instance, the staff were not very friendly. When I asked for assistance, they seemed disinterested and unwilling to help. Another issue was the expensive snacks. While the popcorn was fresh, the prices were much higher than expected, which might put some people off. Overall, the new cinema is an enjoyable experience. Despite some minor flaws, its great variety of films and excellent screen quality make it worth visiting. I would recommend it to any movie lover looking for an exciting night out.
Now let's move on to template 2. So review of whatever it is again. So here we have the cinema. Recently, I had the opportunity to watch Revisit, whatever you're reviewing, which has gained a lot of attention. I was curious to see whether it lived up to the hype. So firstly, you have point and development. Secondly, point and development. The negative points, however, one aspect that could be improved is point and development. Another drawback is point and development. And then your final verdict in conclusion, while the thing you're reviewing has a few flaws, it is still an engaging, interesting, enjoyable experience. If you are a fan of, you will likely appreciate it. I would definitely recommend it. So here I've written the review of the cinema again using template 2. So let's have a listen.
Review of the new cinema. Recently, I had the opportunity to visit the new TGV cinema in Mega Mall, which has gained a lot of attention. I was curious to see whether it lived up to the hype. Firstly, the cinema offers an impressive range of films, catering to different tastes and age groups. Whether you enjoy action, comedy, or romance, there is always something worth watching. Secondly, the sound and picture quality are excellent, making the viewing experience immersive and enjoyable. However, one aspect that could be improved is the customer service. The staff were not particularly friendly or helpful, which made the experience less welcoming. Another drawback is the high prices of snacks and drinks. While the food was decent, the cost was unreasonable compared to other cinemas. In conclusion, while the new cinema has a few flaws, it is still an enjoyable experience. If you are a fan of movies and appreciate high-quality visuals and sound, you will likely enjoy it. I would definitely recommend it.
Now let's move on to template 3, my review of and the thing you're reviewing. Last weekend, I watched, read, tried, etc. and was eager to share my experience. It has been praised for, talk about what it has been praised for, so I was excited to see if it lived up to expectations. So positive points, one highlight was point and development, additionally point and development. And negative points on the downside, point and development, moreover, point and development. Final verdict, overall, the thing you're reviewing is an exciting, informative, enjoyable experience. If you enjoy whatever it is definitely worth watching, reading, or visiting. I highly recommend it. So again, I've written another answer to the same question, but using template 3. Let's listen to it.
My review of the new cinema. Last weekend, I visited the new cinema in town and was eager to share my experience. It has been praised for its wide selection of films, so I was excited to see if it lived up to expectations. One highlight was the variety of movies available, ensuring that there is something for everyone, from thrillers to family-friendly films. Additionally, the cinema boasts excellent sound and picture quality, making the viewing experience truly immersive. On the downside, the customer service was disappointing. The staff were not particularly friendly, which took away from the welcoming atmosphere. Moreover, the snack prices were quite high, making it an expensive outing for those on a budget. Overall, the new cinema is an enjoyable experience. If you enjoy watching films on the big screen with top quality visuals and sound, this is definitely worth visiting. I highly recommend it.
I'm going to move on to templates 4, 5, and 6. There are no examples of usage for these. You can try them out on your own. So here we have a review of when it comes to books, movies, products, places, etc. Finding the right one can be a challenge. Recently, I had the chance to try and I wanted to share my thoughts. One of the standout features of is additionally point and development. However, no experience is perfect. One drawback I noticed was point and development. Another issue was point and development. In the end, the thing you're reviewing is a worthwhile, enjoyable, interesting choice. If you are someone who enjoys, this might be for you. While it has some flaws, I think it's worth checking out. So the reason I've given you so many templates is for you to see that there are a variety of ways that you can write a review. And hopefully you will come up with your own way soon. Another reason why I've given you so many templates is so that you will not be using the same template every time you write a review. Every time you get homework on review, you are using the same old template, which will make it very boring. So do try out the other templates. Do try out a different template each time. Let's move on to template 5, a review of whatever you are reviewing here. And is it worth it? With so many options out there, it's hard to know what's worth your time and money. I recently tried, and here's what I think. First, point and development. Another great aspect is point and development. On the downside, point and development. Moreover, point and development. So is whatever you are reviewing worth it? If you are looking for this could be a great option. However, if it's important to you, you might want to reconsider. So this is a more balanced review. Overall, it's an experience and I would recommend, or you can also not recommend it. Let's move on to template 6, a review of. Recently, I had the chance to experience and I was curious to see if it lived up to the expectations. One thing I really enjoyed was point and development. Another highlight was point and development. However, there were some aspects that didn't quite work for me. For instance, point and development, additionally, point and development. At the end of the day, whatever you're reviewing is an engaging, useful, enjoyable experience. If you're someone who likes, you'll probably appreciate it. While it has a few drawbacks, I think it's still worth a try. So that's the last template. Do try them all out and eventually you will find your own style.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Whether you're writing an essay, a report, or just want to improve your writing style, mastering sentence structures is a must. Let's get started. First up, we've got the simple sentence. As the name suggests, it's the most basic type of sentence. A simple sentence consists of a subject and a verb, and it expresses a complete thought. It's a sentence that stands on its own. Example, the dog barked. This sentence has a subject, the dog, and a verb, barked. Simple, right? It might not be the most exciting, but it's clear and to the point. Next, let's talk about compound sentences. These are great when you want to link two ideas that are related. A compound sentence contains two independent clauses joined by a coordinating conjunction. The most common conjunctions are and so, but because. Example, the dog barked and the cat ran away. Here, we have two simple sentences joined by and. Both parts could stand alone as separate sentences, but by joining them with a conjunction, we create a more dynamic sentence. Now let's level up with complex sentences. These sentences have an independent clause and at least one dependent clause. The dependent clause cannot stand alone, but it adds important information to the sentence. Example, the dog barked because it saw a stranger. In this sentence, the dog barked is independent. It makes sense on its own, but because it saw a stranger depends on the first part to make sense. The dependent clause gives us more details about why the dog barked. Ready for the ultimate sentence type? Compound complex sentences combine both compound and complex structures. These sentences have at least two independent clauses and one or more dependent clauses. Example, the dog barked because it saw a stranger, and the cat hid under the couch. Here, we've got two independent clauses, the dog barked and the cat hid under the couch, plus a dependent clause because it saw a stranger. You can see how this structure lets us express more complex ideas. Now, why does any of this matter? Well, using a variety of sentence structures keeps your writing interesting and helps you express more complicated ideas clearly. That's it for today's lesson. If you found this helpful, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more writing tips. And if you have any questions or topics you'd like me to cover in future videos, drop a comment below. See you in the next one. Happy writing!
Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. Today we're diving into one of the most important aspects of English writing, punctuation. It might seem simple, but good punctuation can make a huge difference in how clear and professional your writing is. So, let's get started. First up, the full stop, also known as a period. This is probably the easiest punctuation mark to remember. You use it at the end of a sentence that's complete and makes sense on its own. For example, the cat is sleeping. Without the full stop, it wouldn't feel like the sentence is finished, right? Just remember, every sentence that isn't a question or an exclamation needs a full stop. Next up is the comma. Commas are super versatile and can be tricky at first, but with a bit of practice, you'll get the hang of it. Use commas to separate items in a list. For example, I bought apples, oranges, bananas, and grapes. Notice how we use commas between each item in the list? Commas are also used to separate clauses within a sentence. For example, after we finished dinner, we went for a walk. Here, the comma separates the two parts of the sentence. Now the question mark. This one's simple. You use it at the end of a question. Easy, right? For example, what time is it? Without the question mark, it wouldn't feel like you're asking anything. So remember, if it's a question, always use a question mark. Exclamation marks are used when you want to show excitement, surprise, or a strong emotion. But don't overdo it. One exclamation mark is usually enough. For example, wow, that's amazing! The exclamation mark shows that you're really excited. Let's talk about apostrophes. We use apostrophes in two main ways: to show possession or to form contractions. For possession, you add an apostrophe and S after a noun. For example, this is Sarah's book. That shows the book belongs to Sarah. And for contractions, an apostrophe replaces missing letters. For example, can't is short for cannot, and the apostrophe takes the place of the missing letters. Quotation marks are used when you're writing what someone else said. For example, he said, "I'm going to the park." You put the exact words of the person between quotation marks. Colons and semicolons are a bit more advanced. Use a colon to introduce a list or explanation. For example, there are 3 things you need: a pencil, paper, and a ruler. And semicolons are used to link closely related ideas. For example, she loves chocolate, he prefers vanilla. They're separate ideas, but they're related, so we use a semicolon to connect them. And that's a wrap on today's lesson about punctuation. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future lessons. See you next time.